More than 53,000 retail workers will see steady wage increases over the next 3 years under updated recommendations to the sector's progressive wage model. It comes as brick-and-mortar shops are seeing shrinking footfall, challenged by growing competition from online shopping and overseas alternatives. Caitlin Ng finds out more.
Flower bouquets and arrangements are Arfa Nasir's specialty. Since she joined Far East Flora in 2022, the 23-year-old has benefited from pay raises that came from the retail progressive wage model.
It helped me to help my family for paying the bills and in savings, and also I can help to buy some groceries. Like before this, I didn't get to do it, so now it really encouraged me to buy some grocery for my family members.
Like Arfa, over 53,000 retail workers will be covered under the latest recommendations. Entry-level jobs like retail assistants and cashiers will see monthly wages rise to at least $2,305, up from $2,175 before reaching over $2,500 by 2027. That's an increase of about $130 a year. Now, the wage hikes in the third year, which begin in September of 2027, will be reviewed in 2026. The tripartite cluster for retail says it could raise that increase if the economy turns around. But for now, it's keeping things modest, especially amid uncertain outlook.
That is one of the reasons why the amounts that we are looking at might be slightly different from what we may be used to. But I think government is also watching very closely the economic outlook, and if there's a requirement for us to make further changes along the way, we will consider that as well. For example, what's happening with the trade side is most important, and that's something that we are looking at.
To ease the transition, the government will co-fund up to 40% of wage increases in the first year and 20% in the second. The labour movement says this wage growth is sustainable and can reach more workers.
We are also pleased to note that there has been two good outcomes with the PWM. Since the start in 2022, our workers are looking at an increase in starting salaries about $455. And beyond that, we also note that there has been an additional 7,000 retail workers who are benefiting from this program.
For employers like Far East Flora, higher wages comes with a bigger emphasis on skills upgrading.
Either deepening your skill sets in understanding customer service or serving the customers better, learning how to use better technology. It's not like you take a salary and then you stay stagnant in your job scope. You really have to see how you can add value to the employer.
More training courses and qualifications will be rolled out to help workers keep pace.
And how practical are these recommendations for the retail sector? To discuss this, we have Mr. Hao Shuo. He is the CEO of Singapore National Employers Federation. And joining him on Zoom is Associate Professor Ong Yi Cheng. She's Department of Economics and Co-Director, Social Service Research Center at NUS. Welcome to the both of you. Thanks for joining us on Singapore Tonight. So, Mr. Hao, employers will have to absorb these wage increases. So how ready is the retail sector to cope, especially among the smaller players, without compromising operations or jobs?
So as we know, the retail sector is one that probably saw a contraction last year compared to the overall economy, how it was doing. So what's important for employers is really to figure out how to be sustainable in the long term. So for one, I think employers need to continue to press on with the business transformation, job redesign, and then upskilling of the workers. So I think that those kind of efforts will put the employers in the good plan for the long term. So in the short term, I think it's about how to figure out new business opportunities also. Some of the brick and mortar shops may want to learn from what overseas retailers are doing in terms of selling live on some of the live stream, TikTok, those kind of platforms. I think that will attract new customers to their retail shops. But overall, I think it's a balanced set of outcomes. So some employers may feel the pressure in terms of the wage increases, but the tripartite partners in discussing the wage increase has balanced the need to uplift the lower wage workers and to make sure the wage increases are not unsustainable for employers.
Yeah, that pressure that you're talking about, that businesses will feel with these wage increases, how can we ensure that these increases that don't get passed straight to consumers in terms of higher prices?
Well, I guess pricing strategy for business is a lot more complex than just looking at the cost of labor. So employers or business leaders need to think about the impact of raising prices because that could impact sales volume. Then they have to look at what their competitors in the online space or perhaps what overseas retailers are doing. So because consumers today have a lot of choices. So I think a lot of studies have looked at overseas in terms of impact of raising minimum wage. Most of the time, it doesn't translate into a proportional increase in price of goods. So I think if employers can continue to transform and raise productivity, and that wouldn't really result in a price hike for most consumers.
Dr. Ong, let's bring you into the conversation here. The increases amount to between $130 and $160 annually. So from an economic standpoint, is that enough to make a real difference to retail staff, workers, in terms of their financial well-being or quality of life?
So in percentage terms, it sounds significant, right? About 5%. But as you said, $130 to $160 a year, that basically translates to about $11 to $13 a month, which maybe is sufficient to get 1 or 2 meals at a hawker center. So we can actually see in raw absolute terms is not a lot of money, right? And that says a lot about the quantum of the salary to begin with. So I don't think in absolute terms it's going to make a big deal, but of course an increase is an increase, and the message is that yes, we recognize your value and your productivity, and you are deserving of this increased wages.
So this $11 to $13 wage every month, Mr. Howe, do you believe that the revised salary levels will make retail jobs more attractive then to the retail sector, to Singapore?
Maybe I just like to clarify that. I think the increase in wage is to a monthly wage, so $130 to a monthly wage. So I do think it's significant. It's about 5.5% on the monthly wage part. But whether it will solve the problem in attracting manpower to the retail sector, I think that's to be seen. I think a lot of workers, perhaps there's a pool of workers who are willing to work part-time, but employers are unable to tap on them today. But maybe for smaller employers, they do not have the economies of scale to organize a part-time labor force or part-time workers who are willing to work in the firms. And some of them need to build new capabilities in looking into scheduling of the workers who are coming out part-time. So maybe other parts of the ecosystem have a part to play. For example, manpower agencies or staffing agencies who can provide short-term manpower support for retailers. Then if retailers have the capabilities to actually schedule manpower and make it quite dynamic, I think it will help in the manpower challenge. So I think the increase in wages will certainly help, but it won't be the solution for everything.
Dr. Ong, I have to ask you, why do you think this is still a challenge for the retail sector? I mean, why do you think this sector is still struggling to attract Singaporeans?
I mean, we can see that it's not, and yeah, apologies on the mistake earlier. We can see that it's not a very highly paid job, and it's viewed as, less skilled. It can be very taxing dealing with customers on a regular basis. If you're on the front end, on the back end, there could be pressures, right? But overall, I don't think we should view it as a not great job, because I think we all value good customer service, right? We appreciate it when there is someone who can help us and, give us advice, help us make good decisions. And I think many of us have had the experience of either very good or very bad customer service, which has impacted our decision to purchase something or not purchase something. And the decision to purchase something may actually happen on the online space after our visit to the physical store, right? So it's not necessarily something that's going to disappear right away, especially if you're thinking about making a big ticket purchase item, right? You want to buy a piece of furniture that costs a few $1,000s. You might not just rely on buying online. You'll probably visit a physical store before then, maybe at some point of, finishing the purchase online.
And meanwhile, we have the 2027 wage tier, and that will be reviewed in 2026, next year. What do you think are the economic signs or indicators to look for to determine if a steeper hike is warranted, Dr. Ong?
So as the ministers have alluded to is going to be dependent on the economic outlook. So as the retail sales, right, the volume, whether that increases, that would indicate that the sector is probably able to sustain a greater increase in wages. Another thing they might be interested in is in inflation, right? Because part of the goal of the progressive wage model is to ensure that lower wage workers have a sustainable living standards, right? So if prices are going up faster than expected, then we might also hope that the salary increase would be sufficient to cover that increase in prices.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation, Mr. Hao and Dr. Ong. That was Mr. Hao Shuo from SNEF and Associate Professor Ong Yi Cheng from NUS.